27-inch, 1440p, 165Hz, G-Sync, an IPS panel. Does it get much better than this? Let's find out. Hello RageQuitters, my name is Terminator UK and today we're looking at the Acer Predator XB271HU. This Acer Predator screen is a 27-inch panel. It's an IPS screen. We've talked about IPS before, but you get basic excellent colour reproduction, superb viewing angles. There are some negatives which we'll go into slightly later on in the video, but overall the most balanced kind of colour technology you can get. It's a 1440p monitor. It's overclockable, so it's not guaranteed. It starts life at 144Hz, but it can go up to 165Hz, as will be demonstrated a bit later on. And of course, it is a G-Sync module screen. So if you are an owner of an NVIDIA graphics card, you will be able to greatly benefit from the lack of screen tearing, as it's an adaptive sync technology, a bit like AMD FreeSync. So what can we say about this particular monitor? So the monitor is got an extremely thin bezel around the top three edges here. It's slightly thicker towards the bottom with the Predator logo. Love it or hate it, I quite like it. The stand at the bottom is very angular and aggressive, you could say. These stand bases are like a red aluminium metal. When you see it in most of the literature and marketing materials, it looks quite like bright red and garish, but in person it's not quite so over the top. I'd call it kind of like a wine or ruby red, but it's kind of a duller red metallic finish. It actually looks quite nice in person. The monitor also features excellent ergonomic adjustments, so you've got a decent degree of height adjustment. You can see it goes from quite low to quite high. You can also rotate the monitor into a portrait mode, as so. The operation is fairly stiff, but it's you can see it takes a bit of force to get it into the right position, but it's also pretty solid with it as well. And that back into landscape. Okay, we'll just go through an overrun of some of the ports. So the monitor features two side USB 3.0 ports, and as with most G-Sync screens, the connectivity options are not there's not a massive amount to write home about. But starting at the top, we have two more USB 3.0 ports and a downstream USB connector to hook it up to your PC. We also have an audio pass-through port. Importantly, we have the display port there at the bottom, but we also have on this one a HDMI 2.0 port. That's a feature of the second generation G-Sync modules. There's a quick release catch to disconnect the panel from the stand, and finally at the bottom we have the power connector, which also has an on-off switch. I'm a big fan of the integrated power supplies rather than ones that you have to have a separate external brick. And there we go, a close-up of the aggressive red stand as we were talking about earlier. Now we come on to obviously the very important part of this review. How does the monitor actually look? Well, being an IPS panel, obviously the colours are outstanding. This specifically is an AHVA panel. That's an advanced hyper viewing angle panel, which is a fancy marketing term for the modern generation of high refresh rate panels by AO Electronics. The thing you've got to be a little bit careful with these is if you look at some of the horror stories, particularly of the predecessor to this model, which was the Acer Predator XB270HU, the quality control issues that Acer had were pretty bad in terms of what's known partly incorrectly as IPS glow, but more specifically backlight bleed. Now, backlight bleed is something which manifests itself on as white on a black background. So if I just open up Google Chrome a minute and type in dead pixel test, there's quite a few decent backgrounds here that we can use to have a look at that. So if I put this in full screen, now one thing you've got to note is that the camera normally greatly exaggerates what you can actually see on the screen. I've got a pretty good sample here, and this tends to be the report from a lot of users throughout the forums. This particular model, unlike the other competitor, the Acer Republic of Gamers Swift PG 279HU, I think I got that one right, which is also still having quite a lot of quality control issues of people getting really bad panels. The Predator, the modern Predator, seems to be getting quite good results at the moment. You can see towards the bottom right hand corner a bit of clouding and ghosting backlight bleed. And there's also some towards the top right hand corner, but to be honest, compared to the review I did last summer of the Acer XB271HU, one of our other RageQuitters videos, that had severe backlight bleed towards the bottom right hand corner, which really ruined some dark content, but I haven't really seen that with this monitor, so far so good. The other thing that people have reported, which this monitor does have to an extent, is the balance of white backgrounds. So I'm just having a quick look at the video as I'm recording this. You can't see it quite so much actually on the video, but the balance of the white is quite bright here on the right hand side and dimmer here to the right, to the left should I say, which isn't really something you'd expect on an IPS panel. You'd expect the colours to be more balanced overall. But I would say that these are tip of the iceberg minor complaints. Overall, the quality of the screen is outstanding. One of the things I would say is that the monitor does need a degree of calibration. If we open up the menu here in the bottom right hand corner, Acer have included quite a few picture settings. First thing you probably want to do is go to the Acer color management and put it on the user setting, which is the one to the right hand side here. After you've done that, you will want to go into the brightness and turn that down because it's pretty bright for most users. I like my screen nice and bright, so I've actually got it on 60, but a lot of people would like a lot dimmer. Some people have recommended on the forums to put the contrast to 53, which I've done. But some of the more important settings is if we go to the colour. This monitor also has hardware gamma control, which is useful in calibration. There isn't a lot of modes actually, to be honest with this. You've basically only got 2.2 or 1.8. As you can see when I flip between them, 1.8 is quite a bit lighter than 2.2, but it's nice to have some option on there than nothing. Color temp, put it to user, and actually if you click twice through that you get the different gains. So you've got red, green and blue channels. Now these actually do make quite a significant difference. So looking around some of the forums, some of the some of the best settings I've seen for that is as follows. You've got 99 on red, 93 on green and 97 on blue, and that gave me a pretty good overall picture. And they've also included another setting called 6-axis color, which gives you quite granular control over red, green, blue, yellow, magenta and cyan. So if you really want to tweak the panel, you've got all the options that you need there. You've got the usual OSD timeouts, transparency of the OSD, settings. There's like an aim point as well, which you can put a cursor on the screen. Below that you've also got options to select inputs. You have got the overclock mode here. I haven't got it enabled at the moment, but basically to enable it, just literally go to enable and turn it on, and then you select the max refresh rate here. So I've got it cranked up to 165, and then you just hit apply and reboot. That comes up with a little message in the middle of the screen, and shortly the monitor should just reboot itself, which it's doing now. You'll also notice that here the power LED goes off. So this power LED is quite bright, and I've actually set it to go off once the monitor is actually on and working. You can also set it to dim, or you could have it at full brightness, but it's nice to have a bit of a selection there. So if we just have a look at the display settings, you'll now see, after we've overclocked the monitor, that we've now got this 165 Hz refresh rate, so that's a native refresh rate. And do we notice any difference? Well, to be honest, even me being picky beyond picky, I do not see very much difference between 144 Hz and 165 Hz. I think it's more of a marketing gimmick overall, but it's nice to have that option there. Everybody likes options. So just finishing up on the on-screen display settings, we've also got so we've had to look at the overclock. You've also got the NVIDIA's ultra low blur mode as well, which is a strobe mode for the screen. It's quite dark on this screen, so if you're looking for something that you can use as like a strobe monitor, this is probably not the best choice overall. So power LED, I've got it on auto off, and also the information screen, which tells you the resolution, your input and max refresh rate that you've currently got selected. So we'll go into a bit of Battlefield 4 as our games test. It would never be a RageQuitters review if we didn't do a games test. Chosen Battlefield 4 because the graphics are fantastic, and it really does show off the IPS monitors very well. The overall contrast ratio on this monitor is fantastic. You've got really deep blacks and great contrast in comparison to the whites on the screen. The input lag, as I always go on about. Oh, look at that orange, brilliant, really nice. Very good eye candy on this monitor. The input lag is really good. It's comparable to some of the fastest that I've used. So I'd have a guess. Oh, I'll tell you that. I'd have a guess as it was very similar to something like the BenQ XL2730Z or any of the very low refresh monitors. Feels like a 4 millisecond type of input lag on this, so very impressive results. We've also got another monitor review, the Dell SG27 can't concentrate. Dell SG2714DG, I think it is, and the input lag on that is pretty much the same. Using a high refresh rate camera, we saw the Dell ever so slightly ahead in just a couple of frames than this monitor. So if you look at a professional review like TFT Central, for example, and have a look at the input lag stats on that, you can pretty much get the same feel as this particular monitor. So overall, very good indeed. For a IPS panel, it's very fast response time. I will have to be honest though, and I believe we'll have a side-by-side comparison posted quite soon. If you have used a TM panel before, like a 1 millisecond TM panel, unfortunately you're going to be a little bit disappointed in terms of the IPS panel. It feels really good, but you know in your heart that you can do better. It's hard to explain. There's nothing wrong with the IPS panel, but at the same time, I feel personally that I can play a better game on a TM panel, even though it doesn't quite look as good graphically. But everybody's mileage is going to be different. I won't blame my terrible form tonight on that, but there is definitely a difference between the two. So if you're quite used to a 1 millisecond response time TM panel, and you're wondering will there be a difference between the two, well, I would say yes, but not everybody will agree with me on that, but it definitely seems slightly smoother on a TM panel than an IPS panel in terms of transitions. But on the flip side, these IPS panels have got less aggressive overdrive, which is what increases the response time of the panels, and therefore you get less of a phenomenon called overshoot, which can create something called inverse ghosting, which is kind of like a bright haloing over transitions. You don't really get that with these IPS screens. They're pretty well tuned overall, and therefore you don't get as many kind of artifacts from that aggressive overdrive as you would with a TM panel, so it looks cleaner. It's more sort of rounded performance like that overall. Have a bit of that. Ooh. Ah, nearly got him. No, I didn't, but 4 for 0. The Terminator is out of practice. Looking good whilst dying though, it must be said. Now I've been fortunate enough to use both a TM panel and an IPS panel, as most people would, but when I say a TM panel I mean like the high-end TM panel, so like the 8-bit TM panels, which makes a huge difference over the cheaper, what's known as 6-bit and frame rate control. Oh no, he's going to get me again, isn't he? Oh, no, that's someone different. Okay, not quite so dominated. Yeah, what was I saying? It makes a huge difference over the 6-bit plus frame rate control panels, which will never give you a kind of satisfying result. But the high-end 8-bit TM panels are really good in terms of their colour reproduction. Obviously not to the extent of an IPS panel, but to be honest, other than things like the getting killed by that guy 5 times, I hate this guy. Other than the difference of what you've got on a TM panel, where the top of the screen is darker, it's got like a higher gamma than the bottom of the screen, which is a lower gamma and more washed out, which doesn't affect IPS panels at all. They get they're very balanced overall. The actual quality of the colours is really decent on modern. I'm trying to concentrate here. I'm a man, I can't multitask. It's really decent overall, and it's makes it a more difficult choice now. You haven't really got to sacrifice so much with a modern TM panel like you did with an IPS one. So on pure colour reproduction, it's hard to recommend. Obviously, the viewing angles are significantly better on an IPS panel, and therefore, if that is important to you, then this is a bit of a no-brainer. But I'm really impressed by this screen overall. It's I think after using IPS G-Sync screens and after using FreeSync G-Sync screens, I think I hate that guy. 6 for 1, awful. I think if you want to go IPS and adaptive sync with 144 Hz, then G-Sync is definitely the way to go. The monitors are much better in terms of FreeSync range. If you look at all of the IPS screens that FreeSync, it really pushes the scaler to the limit of what they can do. If you looked at the Acer XB271HU that were reviewed last year, oh, that guy, 1 for 7. Oh, this is ridiculous. He's got to be cheating. It had a limitation of a 35 to 90 Hertz. 90 Hertz, horrible, isn't it? You wanted the full range, FreeSync range. If you look at the expensive ISO forests, I'm trying to think of the fly here, 2730 FS 2735, you'll find that has two modes of either 35 to 90 or 57 to 144. And I believe there's another FreeSync screen that's just come out by Acer, and I can't think of the model number off the top of my head. I'm normally Rain Man with these things, but that does claim a 40 to 144 Hertz range. But generally speaking, there's always some compromise with IPS screens and FreeSync. It never seems to quite work out so well. You don't seem to get that sort of problem with TN screens as much, but IPS is definitely effective. On G-Sync, you've got none of those limitations at all. Every one that I've seen is goes from 30 on the low end right up to 144. In this case, it goes up to 165 when it's overclocked, which is brilliant. Really, really good overall experience. So I'm always going to say, if you want to go IPS, go G-Sync, and if you want to go TN, well, you've got the original Acer ROG. Oh, I can't play and talk over at the same time. ROG Swift PG271HU, the original 2014 TM panel. Really good if you get a good one, but riddled with quality control issues, which just makes me want to say, Asus, sort your beep out. Don't want to swear, but you know what I mean. As on the AMD side, I'm pretty biased because I've had the monitor and I love it. But you've got the BenQ XL 2730Z, which to me is like the most. Thank you very much, sir. Is the most rounded monitor you can get overall in terms of colours and the performance that you get out of it. It's a really, really good experience on FreeSync. If you haven't seen that, check it out. We've got a video review here on RageQuitters of that particular monitor. But phenomenal experience with this. Very, very impressed. Very smooth. No issues at all. Completely lag-free gaming. No tearing. Oh, that guy is just ruining my day. 1 for 9, can you believe it? So yeah, if you're going to go for this sort of size of IPS screen, then definitely do yourself a favour. G-Sync has got it in the bag. Don't know how long this round's going to go on for. I might have to wrap things up soon. Terrible negative kill to death ratio. 200 kills. Probably getting quite close to that now. Oh dear me, getting pain now. One more life and then we'll call it a day. Gone. Got you. must be joking. That guy again. Oh dear. 66 for 11. My God, that guy has got no life at all, says me. Doing a hardware monitor review. Right, one more life and then we'll wrap this up. Oh, come on. Right, that's it. Time to rage quit. Let's go on to the next bit. Ooh, that concludes the games test. Didn't do that well tonight, but it's not about my gameplay. It is about the Acer Predator XB271HU. Got it right. Excellent monitor. Really, really good attempt by Acer to produce another stunning 165Hz this time IPS panel with G-Sync technology built in. As I said through the gaming reviews, I think if you really want to go IPS on a large screen like this at a high refresh rate, G-Sync is definitely the way to go. One of the things that's really impressive by Acer is they've obviously taken on board the quality control issues of the original. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get a perfect panel every time. I've read a few stories of bad quality control come out on the forums and people getting really bad backlight bleed. But generally, overall, if you take the rough with the smooth, I've seen a lot of panels out there that have got much better results in terms of backlight bleed. This particular model seems to be doing better than the Republic of Swift PG271HU, for example, which is even more expensive than this. This retails for about £550 here in the UK, as the Swift is somewhere between about £650 and £700, which is a hell of a lot of money to spend on a monitor. They've done very well on the quality control. Don't feel you don't feel that you've got to be scrimped out on that and that you're going to get a poor quality panel as a result. No, they've done an excellent job here. So I think at the moment for me this is overall the better bet. The 4 milliseconds response time is great. I'm going to be defying the ointment again and say that I prefer a 1 millisecond response time. It's just one of these things, if you experience the lower response time, it's really difficult to go back up that scale. You do get a lot for it by going back up the response time. I mean, look at the depth of these colours, fantastic. Even at my angle here, you know, really, really, what a visual treat this is. But really, if you've gone 1 millisecond TN panel at 144 Hz, very, very difficult to go back from that. But don't let me put you off, because the majority of gamers, except for people that are really competitive and want that edge, that I always do. Don't know why. I don't play competitively, but I like to make sure that I've got all the tools in my arsenal to be as competitive as possible, if that makes any sense. So in conclusion, outstanding monitor, definitely gets our approved by gamers, for gamers, prestigious RageQuitters award, mainly based on the fact that Acer have really addressed those quality control issues. Can't say how important that is overall. Nobody wants to go through the panel lottery. You have to go through screen after screen after screen. The overall balance of this monitor, once it's calibrated and set up, is really fantastic. You've got a really good price performance ratio. As I say, at the price of $550, you're looking at the same sort of territory as, say, the original Republic of Games Swift, which is a TN panel, which is riddled with QA issues and things like low gamma, as this doesn't have any of it. So it's a very well balanced panel overall. I think the majority of people would be incredibly impressed and really enjoy this particular monitor. I hope you've enjoyed this video today. If you've enjoyed it, please hit that like button so many more people can try and find the video. If you really like our tech videos, please feel free to subscribe to our channel, look at our website. It really helps us to try and get our user base up. We would greatly appreciate it. My name has been Terminator UK. Thank you very much for watching.